Got another Tascam DAT deck in for service. This is another DA30. And this one here doesn't complete the loading cycle. It tries to load and then shuts down. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's a belt. And I thought it was a belt too initially, but it's not. It's a little more involved with that, but it's a simple repair that I think most people could probably handle this one. It's not too tough to work on these units. Up next is a Tascam D80 DAT deck. I'll show off another thing I got. This is something else I got from that estate that I got all that crap from the Betamax machines, the Edison record player or anything. I got more than that though. I got this light. I haven't set it up yet, but I have it set up now. And I got a nice, look at this, a nice new magnifier light with a nice daylight, full spectrum light. So when I need to see something, I can use my new magnifier. I'll try to keep it out of the way though from the camera, because that's always the problem with these big magnifiers, is they tend to get in the way. But I've been sitting on this thing for a while. I just hadn't set it up until tonight. I got two of these now. I got one that the arm, that was my old light from when I was in the shop. I had it for 20 years there, but the springs are kind of screwed on it, so it doesn't stay in place. So this one here, springs are in good shape, so I can just turn it and get it out of the way when I don't need it, and kind of just stick it up against the wall. Anyway, back to this DAT machine. He says it doesn't load the tape. Probably a belt. We'll see if there's anything else wrong with it. This is the same guy that brought me that NEC cassette deck that I was just working on. And he also gave me that Sony camera. He said, here, you can have this. This is a donation. The little Sony camera, the DV camera that I fixed, which I really won't have much use for, but I'm sure that somebody will take it off my hands. I'll put it up for sale and unload it. Oh, this deck doesn't look like anybody's been in here. None of the wire ties are clipped. So let's power it up and see what it does. I'll plug it into the amplifier and so forth right now, even though I know it's not going to do anything at this point. I don't think it's going to do anything, but we'll plug it in anyway. Power it up. See if any messages come up. So far, so good. Okay, let's try a tape. Okay, it looks like it's not completing the loading cycle, so it's very likely just the loading belt. Hopefully that's all it is. So let's dig into the mechanism and see if that's all that's wrong with this one. Well, the nice thing about these Tascam decks is all you need to do is remove 4 screws and the entire transport will lift out. Being a professional deck as opposed to a consumer deck, they were designed to be serviced quickly, because a lot of these were used by radio stations and recording studios. So they even thought of doing things like putting cutouts into the cabinet here so that the engineer could pass a screwdriver down to get the screws out easily. See, that doesn't happen on consumer equipment. Consumer equipment is not designed to be serviced, whereas professional gear, well, time is money. So if you were using one of these in a studio or a radio station and it went down, the service guy had to be able to get into it quickly. So they were all designed to be very easily serviced. Just lift the whole deck out just like that, and here's the bottom. We've got a couple belts on here. This is the capstan belt that drives, or the real drive belt from the capstan motor. but there is a loading motor, there's a loading belt in here. You gotta remember where it is. I think it's this one over here. This is the motor that opens or drops down the mechanism. There's a bunch of different motors on this. There's one over here that operates the tray, and then there's this motor which lowers down the mechanism, you see. And then there's a third motor that loads the tape, and it's this one over here. And sometimes this is the belt that slips. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to power it up, and we're going to look at this motor or this belt and see whether this belt is slipping when it goes through the loading cycle. If I can do this without taking off my fingers. Get our tape. Load our tape, and then watch what happens. Yeah, the motor's spinning. I can feel the motor spinning. And that time it went through the cycle. That belt is slipping, so let's just change it. And that's likely all that's wrong with this one. So unplug it and see if I can find a new belt for this one. This is not the super tiny belt that the DA30 used. There's a little more reasonable belt, I think, on this one. So it's right here. And if it's not slipping, then it's the mechanism that's gummed up, which is a possibility. But the belt comes out quite easily. Just like that. Let me see if I can find a little belt like that. Okay, now I can flip this little board out from the side here so that I can put the belt back on. I think that's all that has to come out on this, and then I can pop the board up and off of the side. I can get at the pulley. Just lift it up like that, and I can now get into the pulley here and swap the belt. There. That's on now, and hopefully it's going to be tight enough to do the job. We'll put the board back in. Plug all the plugs back in, see whether it loads up. Alright, let's see if it loads. Power the unit up. Still not loading. That time it loaded. I don't think it's the belt that's slipping, because the motor went off and then the motor came back on. I think it's switches. Okay, well, I put a new belt in anyway, but looks like it might be the mode switch. So let's do the mode switch. That either the mode switch or the mechanism is, well, it's not jamming because the motor's actually turning off. So there's a mode switch on this. So we get back into this. I'm going to take out these plugs this time, as I do have to take the circuit board right out to get to the mode switch. So undo that one and this one. Now I can swing this board right out because the mode switch is in behind here. Lift this up, lift the little board up, and here is the mode switch right there that detects when the tape is loaded, and it's plugged into this little plug here on the back. So we'll swing that out of the way. And the switch will come out if I remove these screws. We're going to mark the edge of the switch here, put a scratch in just so I know where it goes, even though it should go back in the same place, just so that we don't slip it horizontally. Remove a couple of screws, and the switch will lift out of the mechanism, and then I can clean it out of the cabinet. It's a linear encoder, just like on VCRs. The contacts here get dirty inside the switch. I don't know if we can see them or not, but there is contacts in there, and the switch itself slides back and forth, and the contacts do get dirty after a while, so we'll just give it a little shot of contact cleaner, neutral in this case. Don't need much, just a little bit. Clean up the control. In this case, it's more like a rheostat than an actual mode switch. If you look down in here, it's carbon, like a volume control. And what it's doing is it's measuring the resistance as the switch moves, as opposed to like a VCR, which is making separate contacts. I think that's how this one works. I'm also going to run the mechanism through its paces manually, just to make sure that nothing is jamming. Although if it were to jam, I would expect that the motor would continue to try to run, and I I would have felt the motor spinning, which I didn't. So I don't think it's a problem with the mechanism jamming, as opposed to just a switch not providing the right measurement to the microcontroller, and then the machine going into an unload mode. But if we want to turn the motor manually, I can manually take the mechanism through its loading and unloading cycle. Okay, this should load the tape guides. Then we can observe what it does. Make sure nothing is sticking. The belt is not slipping. As I go through the modes, you'll see that the pinch roller is engaging. Again, the belt is not slipping. We go into the full loaded mode, and now we're at the end of the travel, and again the belt is not slipping, so there's no problem with that belt. Go through the unload mode. See the pinch roller returning and the guides returning back to the unloaded position. Everything appears to be moving as normal. Nothing's gummed up. All the little guides move like they're supposed to. That one's spring loaded to pull it back. So I don't see any fault there. Now that I've cleaned the encoder switch, we'll put the mechanism back together again and we'll give it another try. Try this again. There we go. Drum motor fired up. Yeah, will it play? Sound. There's my tape playing. Pause. Play. Output level. Skip back. Obviously I didn't have anything recorded on skip back. It was a punch-in, I guess. This is the tape that I've been recording on, so this is not recorded with proper indexes. Okay, let me put this one together. I think we've saved another one. Very easy to work on. I like the mechanisms. We'll test it again now that it's back together. And I can even do a recording on it just to make sure it's recording. Skip to the next track. And full rewind. Yep, that's all working. Eject the tape. I'll throw my other test tape in and we'll make a quick recording on here to make sure everything's working good. Okay, we'll put this thing in record pause. I think that's record pause. And I gotta select my unbalanced input. 44.1 I guess is good enough. Okay, record and play. I should be recording now. And start my track up. Tape's queued up. I'm not playing this directly from the tape deck because, well, I guess I could. Let's play it right from the tape deck, just so you guys can hear that there is no difference in sound quality between the original and the recording. After all, it's digital, but we'll plug it in just for the sake of it. Well, that about does it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.